everyone, it's HaruinKorea, and today I wanted to make a video about tips that I had when it came to teaching younger Korean students. So when I say younger Korean students, I mean like babies. Like I taught 3-year-olds in the mornings and I was their first English teacher ever. Most of them had no introduction to English. And to be honest, in the beginning, it was really difficult for me to figure out kind of how to teach them because I wasn't really expecting to teach such young students and I really wanted to teach the older students. But when it came down to it, like after being there for like many months, I realized that I didn't really like teaching the older students that much and I love teaching the babies. And so I feel like I was really successful when it came to teaching the younger students, which is why I have a lot of tips on that and not so much the older students. So without rambling on for 50 years, I'm gonna get into some tips that I had for them. So tip number 1 is to always make sure that you at least pretend like you know what your students are saying. So that might sound kind of obvious, but for me it wasn't as obvious because I was teaching kids who, when they came into my class in the beginning, they spoke in all Korean. So my Korean is not that great. A lot of the times I could kind of figure out what they were trying to say, but many times I had no clue. So sometimes a student would come up and tell me something and I would look at my Korean teacher, like give her that look like, hey, translate really quickly. And there was one time when I did that and the student just looked at me like, wow, this lady has no idea what I'm saying to her. And from that moment on, the student like hated me for a good at least month, maybe 2 months. She ended up becoming my favorite student, but like it was just so obvious to her that I had no clue what she was saying because I looked very confused at my Korean teacher. And I would say just don't do that. So even if your kid is talking to you in all Korean, you have no clue what they're saying, they're mumbling their words, just be like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Just have a really big face. Or if they look sad, you know, obviously be like, oh, that's so sad. Just something, even if you have no clue what they're saying. You can figure out what they're saying later if your Korean teacher was like listening to them, and then when the student's not paying attention, you can ask the Korean teacher what they said. But while the student is looking at you, I would just always make sure to pretend like you know what they're saying. Okay, so tip number 2, oh my braid just doing whatever, to go along with pretending like you know what the students are saying, I would also say that you need to learn how to speak differently. And that might seem like another really obvious tip, but for me it wasn't. It took me weeks, months to learn how to speak correctly to these students. And what I mean by that is I am a really fast talker. I just talk really fast all the time, especially when I get nervous. And for someone who's fluent in English, obviously that's okay. But for little babies, you need to slow down your speech so much so that they can, you know, pick up a couple words here and there. And when they're trying to repeat things after you, it's easy for them to do. So if you're like fast talker like me, just make sure you slow down your speech. And also to go along with that, you want to talk to the students in the same way that they're talking to you. So depending on the verb structure that they're using or certain words that they're using, you want to kind of repeat that same sentence structure back to them. I don't really know if that makes sense or not, but if you are their first English teacher, the goal is not for you to get them to be speaking perfectly or speaking fluently or know exactly what you're saying. The goal is for them to just become comfortable with being in an English setting, starting to use English words, even if they're not using them correctly, and yeah, just kind of get comfortable even just being around a foreign teacher. So that's kind of the goal if you're their first English teacher and they're like babies. So if they're like older students, obviously these tips might not work, but for babies, that's really the goal for you. So for me, my students, I taught them for 6 months. And so maybe the first like 3 months, it was basically all Korean in that classroom with like little English, you know, here and there, and them repeating things after me. And so as the months went on, it became obvious that they were starting to understand what I was saying, but they still could not, you know, talk back to me. So in order for them to start talking back to me, I just had to use very basic English. And so what I mean by that is, so if a student said to me, like, students would say this rather frequently, they'd be like, Brianna teacher, big I love you. So you know what I'm gonna say back to that student? I'm gonna be like, big I love you too, okay? It doesn't matter that I sound stupid. The student understands exactly what I'm saying, okay? So let me think of another example. So my kids all the time, you know, if they thought I was mad at them or something, I don't know why they asked me this, to be honest, but they just raise their hand in the middle of my lesson and be like, Brianna, teacher, me, I love you. I was like, yes, me, I love you, okay? So they mean like, do you love me? So instead of being like, yes, I love you so much, like, no, I just broke it down very simple, you know, so that they would understand it. Let me think of some other examples that are good ones. Oh, okay, got it. So another thing that students would do was like, if they got hurt, they'd be like, Brianna, teacher, ouch here. I was like, ouch here, why ouch here? And then they'd be like, Brianna, teacher, yesterday, brother, this, and hospital. I'd be like, yesterday, brother, punch and hospital. They'd be like, So just like very simple English. You're gonna sound so silly when you actually stop and listen to yourself, but the kids are gonna get it. And so it was funny because, you know, after I was done teaching my like baby class or whatever, and I would go hang out with my friends after work, I would still be talking with like a weird sentence structure, and I would, you know, omit words and things like that, and they'd be like, Brianna, why are you talking like that? I was like, listen, okay, you guys teach like 5 and 6-year-olds. I teach 3-year-olds, okay? So I have to talk like this for like 5 or 6 hours out of my day. So you're gonna sound weird at first, but I'm telling you, like, the kids will really pick it up. And I would have like my academic coordinator come into my class and my principal come into my class and stuff. And she was like, wow, your students are so good. They're the best 3-year-old class. Like, they're amazing. They can say things that other students who are a little bit older than them can't say. And I feel like it was because, you know, I used a different sentence structure with them until they were like able to understand, you know, how to put words together, you know, more fluently, but it worked out for them. So that's all that really matters. Okay, tip number 3 is in the beginning, if you're teaching kids who, you know, aren't really comfortable with you yet, aren't comfortable with English at all, aren't speaking English at all, only understand Korean, you are gonna wanna use a lot of videos. So my school provided like all of the materials that I was supposed to be teaching the kids, but I would get through the lesson so quickly in the beginning because I couldn't stop and ask my kids questions at the end of the lesson because they didn't know what I was really saying anyway. So, you know, as time went on, I could stop like and really drag the lesson out just by asking, how many are there, or how many are there of these, or what color is this, or did anybody go to the hospital, or just things like that. But in the beginning, when they don't know what you're saying, it's really hard to drag out a lesson. So if your school is okay with this, I've heard of schools who aren't really like okay with using like materials outside of their own, but at the end of the lesson, put on some videos. Like, it can be a reward for them. And the kids are gonna be like extremely happy to like be like, oh, we get to watch a video, like YouTube, yay. Like, I'm telling you, they're gonna be excited. And there's some like, I feel like pretty popular shows that a lot of Korean kids know. Like, my kids, they love to watch Peppa Pig. They'd always be like, Brianna, teacher, Peppa Pig, please. I was like, okay, well, we finished this lesson rather early, so we can watch some Peppa Pig. Or there's something called like Baby Bus, which, I don't know, it's a lot of songs and things like that. Like, just look it up if you're out of materials to use for the day. Like, Baby Bus, they really like Baby Bus, and it'll teach them about like police cars and hospitals and just all sorts of things. So Baby Bus is a good one. There's also another popular Korean one. It's called like Ping Pong or something like that. So look that up too, because those were like really short songs that the kids could just easily like sing to and watch, and they really enjoyed them. So in the beginning, when your kids don't know a lot of English, use a lot of videos. And with these videos, like, you can use like songs, like use a lot of songs, because even when I was learning Korean, like, kids songs really helped me out. Like, it's just repetitive and the kids will start to repeat it and sing it, and then they'll start to understand what it means. So songs are really good. If your kids are looking really bored or tired, like, get them up and dancing. Like, just have them dance around the room to anything. Like, every morning we started out with, we'd sing the Days of the Week song. So my kids knew the days of the week pretty early on. And then we would sing the weather song, and there was a little dance to go along with the weather song, and they all really enjoyed that. So if you don't have a lot of like resources or things like that, just go on YouTube, look up like anything that looks kid related. Like I'm telling you, the kids do not care. If it's repetitive, if it's catchy, like they're gonna like it and it'll make your life so much easier. Okay, tip number 4 is to go along with, you know, singing and dancing. You need to be very energetic. Like if you are not energetic and have a lot of energy and have a big voice, the kids are gonna get so bored with you. Like I'm telling you, they will act up, they will run around, they'll be talking in Korean the whole time. Like they're not gonna listen to you if you do not have a lot of energy. So whenever we were like singing songs or things like that, like you best believe I was up at the front of the classroom dancing around. Teachers from other classes would be like, wow, we can really hear her. Like, because it makes the kids laugh, it makes them more comfortable around you, just having like a lot of energy. And so, like if you're just speaking loud, like it automatically just makes the kids like pay attention to you. So I would say just have a big voice, be super energetic, be fun. And if that's not really your thing, you're not gonna wanna teach younger kids. You're gonna wanna teach older kids where you don't have to be that energetic. So I would always joke around with my friends who taught the older kids, like they wouldn't be as tired at the end of the day, but I was exhausted, and not necessarily mentally but physically exhausted. Like I'm not screaming, but like having a loud voice all day, dancing around all day, jumping around up and down, you know, just crazy things all day. And so by the end of my morning classes, I was so tired. So, you know, if that's not your thing, then okay, but to me it made me really happy to see my kids laugh. Like if I did something and I wasn't even like intending to be funny and then my kids start laughing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing that a lot more often. So yeah, just find things that your kids think are like funny and just be energetic and fun, and your kids will probably love you. So tip number 5 is that when you're teaching younger kids, like 3-year-olds, they're gonna get tired very easily. So depending on your school, you might have like a curriculum that you have to get through, but usually with like 3-year-old kids or like the younger kids, it's kind of, you know, easier to catch up if you miss a lesson or you miss something. So if my kids were really tired, you know, by the end of the day and we still have one more class left that like involved like writing and stuff, I was like, okay, we're not doing that. Like I'd be like, okay, we're doing art today. And I kind of just switch my lessons around a little bit. And so maybe for your school, that might not be appropriate, but for my school, like nobody was like monitoring me like crazy. And since I had the younger kids, it was kind of easier to switch around my lessons. But if you can't switch around your lessons, I would say even just in the middle of a lesson, if your kids are tired, bored looking, just play a short, fun little game with them, or just get them up and like doing jumping jacks or something. Like when I was in school and my teachers did this, I used to be like, why are they doing this? But I completely get it now. Like when kids are falling asleep and exhausted, you got to get them up and moving. So put on a song that just lets them dance, or maybe you can like bribe them like, hey, if we get through this, we can, you know, dance to some videos at the end, or color, or just something like that. So just know that if your kids are really tired or just look exhausted, you know, just kind of try to switch it up a little bit, you know, bring the energy back up in the room, and it'll make your life easier in that regard. All right, so I think those are all the tips that I have. I always try not to ramble that much in my videos, but I end up just rambling on and on and on. I'm sure I left out a lot of tips and things, but if you guys have any specific questions, ask me in the comments. I'm telling you, like, I don't get that many comments on my videos, so if you ask me something, like, I am going to see it and I will answer it for you, whether it's in a video or a comment. And I don't know, I like talking to people, I like helping people out. Like I'm telling you, like people who like comment on my things, like I will go back and forth with you for lots of long messages. So if you're trying to teach English in Korea, or you need some tips and advice on things to do if you're already teaching, just leave me a comment and I will message you back. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Bye!